Hey, what's up, Silas here? This is the Meme Whisperer. In this one, I just kind of go over a meme, I put the meme up on the screen, and I kind of give you my thoughts on it. This meme is going to be about colonialism. Some of you may have seen this meme before. It's been around for a while, you see it posted, and it kind of had a resurgence now with the recent comments, alleged comments that Donald J. Trump had to say about Haiti and Africa. So here it is on the screen, and let's get into it. So this meme is a simple drawing of the different continents in the planet, and Africa has been dug out, and the material that supposedly was in Africa has been placed on top of North America and has been placed on top of Europe. So this meme isn't new, and there's many different variations on it. I saw this one recently, which was, I think, in response or had made a resurgence due to the comments, alleged comments that Donald J. Trump made, President of the United States, about the living conditions in Africa and Haiti. Although they've pulled back the Haiti thing, now they're just saying it was Africa. Still contested if he actually said anything. But the meme reads this way: Colonial powers be like, look how advanced we are and wealthy we are. Why can't you be like us, Africa? Why are you so uncivilized? Why are you so poor? Why are you starving? Now, to begin with, these alleged comments, as you can see on the shirt next to it, the design there with that dress, he apparently called it a bleep hole. Now, a lot of people on the left, CNN, some of these real news channels, real news sources, have been repeating the term constantly. When I first got this story, I saw it in the New York Post and it had it in the headline. And I was like, okay, are they actually posting that? I know they put it in quotations, so technically it's not them saying it. But the gleefulness that I've seen some people, this kind of, I think they're happy they can call it out. They're happy that they can say it. They're happy that they can say this word over and over again. And this is a group of people that curse a lot. People on the left politically, in my experience, curse a lot more. So when they're talking about vulgarity, saying, oh, this is something that I'm so shocked that he said it this way, it's not that they're against what he's saying about the country. Because when they're saying here, you see they're saying, why is Africa so poor? Why is it so uncivilized? Why are they starving? Because that is the idea they have of Africa. Now, it's not entirely unwarranted because these issues do exist in Africa to different extents. But think about a lot of these people. Think about the microaggressions that they see. Something very minor happens in their life, and that will describe that entirely situation. They'll be able to say, I was treated this way in a way that was a little unpleasant to me, and that's going to define my entire interaction with this category of people. So if they have an idea where they see a small part of Africa that is horrible, they will define that whole thing that way. Colonialism did have negatives. If they find the many things about colonialism that were negative, if they can take a microaggression in their life, despite all the positive things that are going on in their life, and define their life as a terrible one because of that microaggression, then of course it makes sense that historically they'll be able to focus on the negative things that happened during colonialism and since then, and be able to transpose that onto Africa as it is today. So it makes complete sense that they will consider Africa to be a negative, horrible place. So when you're talking about Africa, at least when they're talking about Africa, when this meme is talking about it, they don't take into account how massive of a continent it is, how diverse a population it is, and the peoples and the cultures and the histories. If you compare sub-Saharan Africa to Northern Africa, which is, for all intents and purposes, the Middle East, there are very many questions to kind of bring up when you're talking about something like this transfer of wealth or this colonialism kind of behavior. Since North African countries and cultures and societies were also involved in the slave trade, the Middle East was a massive destination for slaves from Eastern Africa. And I'm here in Kenya. That's something that I found out to my shock of how horrible that slave trade was and how little it's actually discussed. Now, next is also what is on the screen here. It's this drawing that I did some time back, talking about how Africa itself is ruled by these people with these iron fists. It has the effect of colonialism, which is there, positive and negative. In the back, there's still not natural resources there. In Africa right now, it's these big men, these top people on top. In some cases, they sell out the natural resources locally, the local natural resources, to interests from abroad. So this is continuing. This is part of commerce. This is part of what happens. These resources have been in Africa, but nobody was using them. They weren't being used to the extent that they can now. So sometimes it's going to involve selling these to other people that can use them. Sometimes it's going to be commerce that comes out of that that's going to be positive for the locals. Sometimes it's going to be negative. This is the reality of life. And here we see another version of this meme where they've also dug out from the southern border of the United States of America down into the entire South American continent and piled those up on North America again and Europe. They seem to have left out Spain there, which is another thing. Spain was, I know maybe it's just because of the drawing and you can see some parts of North America are also free, but it's also interesting that they left out Spain there, since Spain did dig out pretty much majority of Southern America was Spain. So they should actually throw a whole lot on there if this is actually accurate. But accuracy is not what they're going for here. They're also discounting the way these continents had their own cultures, had their own people, had their own warfare, had their own transfer of resources going on in there. And I think there's some kind of superiority there where they think we have so much power, where we come from people that have so much power. So if today I don't have that much power, they have to maintain that they as a culture, they as a people, they as a race have this power where they can actually negatively influence people, where they're like, yes, we come from these gods, we come from these creatures that had the influence to actually destroy an entire continent. Despite the actual issues these people in that continent were dealing with, no, the effect of our ancestors has some more power over them than anything else they could have personally done. And what does this do to the mentality of the people today? I think a lot of people today feel they have little power, but if they can feel they are from this kind of people, this kind of stock, that's their lineage, that's the culture they're a part of, that can give them some agency or some feeling of agency today that they can also effect large amounts of change, great change in the world today, even though they feel like they may be floundering without any kind of control. So when you look at what was happening historically in the Americas and in Africa, it wasn't entirely the evil white man who came in and created all this muck and took everything away. And even if they did take away things, how much of that has actually been involved in the situations that you have in those countries today? How much of what is happening in those countries today is just a continuation of the strife and the differences that existed pre-colonial times? So I understand memes are not supposed to give solutions. They just use images to invoke things or to evoke certain emotions in people, make certain points. But what is the solution to this? I think something like this can be used to kind of defend the current practice of taxing people in the West and transferring that to African countries, to Southern American countries in the form of foreign aid, to say, okay, we're not actually doing the same thing that happened in the past when colonial powers went and taxed the labor of Africans, of Southern Americans, and took that money and transferred it to their people. No, we're not doing that transfer anymore. This is a return of resources, of past resources to these people. I don't think that flies. One thing this meme does expose very clearly is the hypocrisy of people on the political left. They'll say that, yes, Western powers should feel bad, Western cultures should feel bad, because through colonialism and other ways, they have taken away resources from Africa and rendered it a horrible place, so you should feel bad for doing this bad action. Somebody comes out and points out, hey, these places are worse than these other places, these places are worse than places in the West, and people flip out. So they say, yes, you should feel bad for making Africa bad, but never actually talk about how bad Africa is. So winding up, why did Norway come up in this whole comparison of we should have people from Norway come to the United States of America, and now of course following people like, oh look, people from Norway don't want to come to US, so what does that say about US? That's not an argument. That doesn't really apply to what I think you're trying to say. That's trying to point out that yes, a country that's better than somewhere else wouldn't want people to go there. So of course, if people want to go to the United States of America, per your argument, that means they find United States of America to be better than where they're from. So now for measuring how countries are, the Human Development Index is a good one to use, which is developed by the United Nations Development Program. Now Norway has been number one on this list for quite some time. The highest scoring African nation is Mauritius, which is a small island nation off the east coast of Africa. The country I'm currently in, Kenya, scores at 145 in the world. For those who are curious, Haiti, which was supposedly in the initial reports mentioned by Donald J. Trump, scores 163. So, the Human Development Index is a composite statistic of life expectancy, education, and income per capita indicators. It was developed in 1990 by Indian economist Amartya Sen and Pakistani economist Muhbub ul Haq. Ul Haq. Sorry if I'm saying those names wrong. But yeah, so this is something that United Nations use. It says over half the world's population live in countries with a medium human development, 51%, while less than a fifth, 18%, populate countries falling in the low human development category, and countries with a high to very high human development account for slightly less than a third of the world's population. So this is a general distribution, probably fits out pretty well when you look at a bell curve of where people are. And some countries are further in the past and some countries are further in the future. Some cities, some areas within certain countries are further in the past and certain in the future. Some within actual cities, you can go to different boroughs and see different kind of things. Now that strikes me more when I go to places in Africa, like here in Nairobi, you can see some really transitionary things where some people are still living in mud huts right next to people who have full control, or you'll have people in mud huts also having access to some of the modern technology with cell phones and Wi-Fi and things like that. So it's kind of a clashing of two worlds. So anyway, that's it for now. As I said, there's going to be links below to this HDI stuff. Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing that, okay, Africa is behind mostly because of what the West did. What do you think that does to the people in the West today mentally? And what do you think that does to people in Africa today when they think, okay, should I even try if I'm starting from so far behind? What does that do to the psyche of the people in these countries and how they approach just the world in general? And to be honest, some places are better than others. And you might not have thought it in the exact terms that were used with blank hole, but I think some places are that blank compared to other places. Like, share, and subscribe. Links below to the merchandise store. Goodbye.